Hello, everybody. I'm Fabio Scopeta, General Manager of Customer Success Latin America. And I love to join you in this event to have a conversation about building digital capabilities and support your success in your industries. And this particular event, the Reimagine Latin America, is even more meaningful for me as it's centered in building business resilience, which is critical given our current business and social environment. And who better to speak about those topics than Andrew Wilson, the Microsoft Chief Digital Officer. Hey, Andrew, thanks for coming.
Hello, my friend. It's great to be here at Reimagine. I hope you and everybody are safe and well.
We are. Thank you. From California, I hope you can answer a few questions that we have here in Latin America.
I'd be delighted to.
So, resilience. This is top of mind on executives today, and it will prove to be a key factor for winning in this year or in the following years. So, Andrew, tell me, what is your top of mind as Microsoft Chief Digital Officer?
Well, as the Chief Digital Officer, I'm responsible for running much of the technology that powers the company. It actually runs our back office. It runs a lot of the services that enable us to build and deliver capabilities for our customers and the community and the ecosystem at large. And so my reflections have been, can we keep going on that? Did the digital transformation strategy that we've been talking about for several years actually work when everything changed, and in 2020, we were required to be responsive, be agile, and to change? Did we have that flexibility? Did we have that resilience that you described? Were we able to pivot ourselves and keep going and ideally thrive and be the digital first responders that we needed to be to help the global community and our customers? So top of mind for me was, did everything that we do, did the order we do it, did the investments we make pay off? I'm pleased to say without any complacency that I think they did. We were able to ensure that our workforce could remain productive, could remain connected, could remain assisted, and could embrace the experience that we've all been thrust into in a manner that didn't slow us down, so we could meet the major customer commitments that are so dear to our hearts. And so top of mind for me is digital transformation in action and proven real time. So I'm responsible for transforming our technology footprint, as many chief digital officers and CIOs and CXOs are. I'm also responsible for making sure that Microsoft's technology works in prime time in the enterprise. And so we're testing a lot real time that thinks about where we go next. So all of those things are top of my mind in terms of, can Microsoft remain relevant? Can Microsoft help our ecosystem? And can we bring the right products and services at the right time to market in a way that's going to help us in the months ahead?
Thanks, Andrew. And connected to your comment on what to do next, with almost every organization having to depend on data, analytics, digital tools, automation, the cloud and digital technologies will constitute an increasingly critical element for us to reimagine the business of tomorrow. So where should our customers be focusing on, or where should they start?
I think every organization should have a clear North Star, a clear vision, a clear blueprint, if you like, for digital transformation. And that's very much at the heart of a strategy. But first, understand why. What is it that you need to achieve? Think in terms of business outcome, think in terms of customer relationship with your employees, and then translate that into what you need from technology, and then translate that into how are you going to go about delivering that. So at Microsoft, we operate with a blueprint for digital transformation, and we think about it in a number of layers. And these are designed to help, if you like, act as a checklist in terms of what areas to focus on. So first of all, I talk about the what, and I think about the engineering excellence. I think about data and telemetry of systems. I then think about platforms and how we combine the capabilities that Microsoft provide to the ecosystem with other selected third parties, because we have to play and integrate together. I think about the data layer and the governance of data and the democratization of data. I think about the security and building in security by design. I think about the experience layer in terms of employee experience and in terms of making our workforce productive wherever and whenever they're working, and in all of the new ways of work as information workers and knowledge workers. And then I think about the relationship with each and every stakeholder and component of the business. And we think about the digital transformation of our company functions, our corporate functions, our go-to-market functions, our supply chain. And that model, that 6-layer model at its simplest, I think has a lot in it that we then decompose. And that drives conversation that is relevant for any industry that's thinking about transformation. And then I think about the order in which we do it, because, of course, you can't do it all at once. And so for us, it was always a case of thinking, get the foundations right, make sure that we have a sequence that makes sense, that is affordable, and that actually can deliver business outcomes at a rate and in the sequence that the business is able to adopt and digest and take to market. So we think about the journey to cloud. We think about optimization in cloud. We think about the experience and the edge. We think about the data and insights. We think about the intelligence. We think about the automation that's required. And these are all themes which I think a modern enterprise technology organization needs to have in place in a sequence with a model, and then some great real-time feedback in terms of, are they driving the right outcomes at the right rate? So that then provides a prompt for the nature of the dialogue with the business and the governance that you operate. So there's a lot there, but in simple terms, there is a very good blueprint for transformation that I'd encourage everyone to think about and reflect, because that's what will plot both a course that is effective now and then causes us to think about what's coming next, what's over the horizon. And when we get through the pandemic, what's the next challenge that's going to challenge the digital transformation and the digital strategy that the CDO and the team need to be able to talk about to the board?
Great, Andrew. And you talk about digital transformation, and I just recall a quote from Satya Nadella, our CEO, which is, we experience 2 years worth of digital transformation in 2 months. So what this really means for chief transformation, chief technology, chief digital officers in Latin America?
2 years in 2 months really captures it well, because what it's essentially saying is the world has speeded up and then some. And I think that speed has brought about a real intensity. Satya also speaks about tech intensity. I think he's right there too, because you're dealing with, as a technology team and as a CIO or CDO, you're dealing with unprecedented levels of demands for modernization, for employee experience, for relationship with customer, for digital assets and capabilities to be taken to market for your company. You're dealing with, at the same time, all of the capabilities which make up the technology ecosystem changing ever more quickly. We all understand how quickly the cloud has matured, how much new capability is arriving, how much intelligence is arriving built into cloud-first, cloud-native systems. So everything is changing and everything's speeded up in terms of the rate of the change. And so you've got to find a way of navigating through that. And you've got to find a way of explaining it in a language that the business can assimilate. As much as anything, I regard myself as an ambassador for tech in the business in which I operate, which happens in my case to be a technology business. But the model works in whatever industry you're in. And so for me, the intensity and the speed and the degree of change has to be a key factor in what your digital transformation is delivering, how and when. Because the rate of which things are maturing and the rate at which things are being seen to deliver value has moved out of all magnitude. Being able to navigate that is one of the key characteristics of effective leadership at this time of maximum change. So I think we're reflecting as well, not just on how to keep up, but how to prosper and thrive. What techniques work? How do you coach and consult your business? How do you assess maturity? And how do you bring capabilities into production more quickly than you used to? How do you bring agile techniques in terms of the engineering excellence practices, in terms of DevOps, in terms of agile, in terms of design thinking? All of those things that drive the dialogue with the business have speeded up and need to be brought to the table if you're going to deliver on a strategy at the speed that the modern world needs.
And Andrew, you mentioned leadership in having a dialogue with the business and bringing topics to the table. So how is your team articulating the vision around Microsoft to the business areas and getting support, the support that you need to get around investments and call to actions and bring the sense of urgency?
I think the technology organization in any enterprise, in any business, in any industry, has to understand its relationship with the business. And the start points are very different in terms of level of investment, in terms of centralized versus decentralized. What's the acquisition history of the company? What's the governance and power map of the technology leadership, let alone the broader business leadership? You have to understand and navigate that. Then you need to understand the components of the business strategy that are vital to the business and think in business terms, look at business outcomes, and understand the pacing and degree of change that the business is looking for in terms of its relationship with its supply chain, its manufacturing capabilities, its go-to-market, its end customers, its other business relationships in the broader industry. Only then will you have a sense of, more than a sense of, what each capability needs to be by area of the business. And when earlier I talked about the blueprint, that's where this comes into effect, because there's a different lens on digital transformation based on the role you have in the business, whether you're the CFO, the CEO, whether or not you're head of manufacturing, whether or not you're the head of HR. And so you put all of those requirements together, they form individual roadmaps that demonstrate the digital outcomes that you need for all of those key business processes. And it's back to my really strong encouragement, think in terms of business outcomes. The underlying technology will enable it, but don't think in terms of just measurable technology steps. That won't cut it. What cuts it is transformational change in the business. And so cloud and edge and data and experience and analytics and workflow and process transformation, all of which can be powered by Microsoft and its cloud, all of that becomes then the way in which you realize that vision and that transformation strategy. The relationship with the business is interlock. I always talk about interlock. And the interlock is, are you measured on the same terms, in the same rate, and at the same pace of funding and of measurement of outcomes? Ultimately, the business strategy succeeding will be measured on the same basis as the technology strategy succeeding, which will be a combination of outcome and deliver in time, back to your earlier point.
Thanks, Andrew. And you mentioned transformation multiple times. And there's one topic. There's one of my favorite topics, and I'm sure it's one of Mariana Castro's favorite topics too, which is culture. So how critical is culture in the journey of the digital transformation, or how important it is to make a real digital transformation?
Culture is hugely critical because it's in the company culture, in that enterprise culture, that everything happens. And culture will explain the nature of the employee base and the talent, both inside the technology team and in the broader company. It will describe the way in which knowledge and the way in which product and IP has been created and is curated. It will explain how communication occurs. It will explain how decisions are made. It will talk about an influence, central versus decentral. And it will also explain and set North Star for how employees expect their experience and their employee experience to be in their employer, as well as many other things besides. It will explain how a company goes and thinks about change, how it adopts change, how aggressive it thinks it can be in terms of that, how it explains change and measures value, and how it rewards. All of those things are really, at the end of the day, culture. So culture informs talent, process, data, and, by the way, the technology approach. So when you think about a transformation, you really have to start with a culture, because if you work countercultural, it's not going to work. So you have to think about rate, change, communication, style. I do think that the capabilities of the modern digital ecosystem can help modernize a culture, but it will help explain its start point. different cultures have adopted and addressed virtual working in different ways and at different rates and at different levels of real acceptance and embracing and with different levels of friction. So think about the culture, because ultimately digital transformation success is going to be measured in cultural terms, and it will be maximized if it delivers in a way that the culture can embrace and adopt. And so we at Microsoft, we're famous for having changed our culture under Satya's leadership. And that set out a view that we could, aligning in terms of a mission and a North Star, it taught me how to think about how we equip our individuals and our employees, how we go to market with our capabilities, how we think about explaining ourselves, both internally to our own internal customers, but then also in our broader community as well. So you've got to understand the culture if you're going to have an effective digital transformation strategy.
Finally, Andrew, I would like to finalize with a big question for you. I hope you don't mind. So what is your big vision for how you reimagine the future of your team, but really the future of Microsoft as a whole, as our Chief Digital Officer?
I think Microsoft is successful when we make our customers successful. Satya taught that to me. I think that as I look forward, I can see that the role of technology in the success of a business and an enterprise around the world in any industry, I think, is going to rely more and more and more on digital capabilities. So for me, there is no better opportunity to be in digital, but no better challenge, no greater a challenge than we have right now. Because we are powering more of our business more real time than ever before. That was accelerated in 2020. Now we have to think about what it's going to mean as we see increasing levels of automation in both our operations, in our support, increasing levels of intelligence in our systems. I think we'll organize around data. I think we'll think in terms of data flow and enterprise insight. I think we'll think in terms of always what is the right combination for an organization to make and buy, and how does it integrate together? And do the platform providers and the hyperscalers promote that effective and elegant integration so it works ideally out of the box for customers, or with controlled integration steps that have been proven by early adopters like my own organization? So we're thinking about all of that, and we think our role in the enterprise changes to be perhaps more than the technologists that we're famous for being. We think in terms of being change agents and advocates. We think in terms of brokering and integrating services, some of which we consume ourselves in terms of clearly our Microsoft-powered footprint, but then things that we help our product teams develop and make enterprise ready, and we co-develop there. Then my organization is thinking about where we work with select third parties like SAP and ServiceNow and Adobe and other great fascias that integrate well with Microsoft, and where they complement and create a pre-existing IT posture that our customers can consume without having to relearn every step. And I think we think in terms of data governance. We think in terms of being the chief HR officer for the non-human workforce when we think about all of the automation that we're responsible for. And we think about reimagining the next chapters of work in a world that's changing very quickly, as we've talked about, but in a direction that none of us have really experienced before. We won't revert to the same footprint of operations and behaviors that we're used to. So what does the next chapter mean? Technology, we know, is vital. We know it's mission critical. How are you going to go about what you do, in what order, and how could we at Microsoft help you do that? And that's what my team's thinking about.
Thank you, Andrew. I really appreciate you sharing your vision with us. I'm sure we learn a lot. I would keep going for another hour or so. People would turn my microphone off for sure. So one thing we can do is to bring you more often to Latin America. I know that our customers will be really happy to have more connections with you.
Thanks very much, Flavio. Really enjoyed catching up and talking transformation. I'd say thank you to everybody. Love Latin America. Have a great reimagine, and looking forward to saying hello again soon. Thanks very much. Bye-bye.
Thanks a lot. See you.